Ready to dominate at the plate? Blast Baseball is trusted by more major league and college teams than any other hitting solution. The Blast sensor attaches to the knob of any bat, providing real-time feedback with every swing. Go to blastmotion.com and enter code NOWD1 at checkout to save $25. All right, everybody, it is 9 o'clock. Let's get right into it. We do this show every Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern on X Spaces. I'm Alan Gay, and this is Now D1 Speaks. We got a great show tonight, a show that I've really been looking forward to. I think you guys are going to absolutely enjoy it. We've got an author on, a former ball player, an academy owner, a trainer, well-diverse guy. We've got Geoff Rottmayer. Hey, Geoff, are you here?
I'm here.
Hey, thank you so much for taking out some time to spend a little bit of time with us. Really looking forward to tonight. Why don't you kind of kick it off, Geoff, and maybe kind of tell us a little bit about your background, man. Where did you play baseball? What position did you play? And ultimately, how'd you get into playing baseball?
We start looking at baseball. You know, it's obviously a young sport, a young kid's sport that we all played, and I'm no different, right? So I played all the sports. I played soccer, played football, played baseball, did it all. But ultimately, I just love baseball. You know, I was probably a better football player, but I just love baseball. So that just kind of took me to, you know, kind of where I am today. Like, there's a lot of things that happened during my career that I'll get into in a minute that just kind of left me confused. You know, when I look at hitters, you know, I see, like, there's a lot of commonalities, like, you know, with hitters that struggle. You know, like, you got hitters that have great swings and they just can't have game day success. And so you start looking at what they're doing. It's like this great swing, why is it not translating to good at bats? And, you know, they would lose their mind going from on deck to the batter's box, and the emotion would kick in. So really, what it came down to, what really is, a lot of these guys just didn't have an approach when it came to the plate. They didn't have the confidence they needed to go to the plate, and they weren't making adjustments to their approach based on the pitcher. You know, and when you look at the baseball game, there's, at any given week, you can be facing 8 to 9 different pitchers who all have different setup, different deliveries, different arm slots, different pitches, different conviction in their pitches and approaches to hitters. They were all having the same approach to the same hitter, to the same pitcher, and that doesn't work when you level up. And that's what happened to me. I was the same way. You know, I grew up in Clearwater, Florida. You know, again, I played football and baseball there. I went to a school called Countryside. I played all 4 years there. I started at third base, went to eventually outfield, which I really enjoyed playing. But at Clearwater, I played for a guy named Steve Sharp and Dennis Braun. And they both taught me a lot about the game at the high school level and what it was going to take to hit there. You know, Dennis Braun actually introduced me to the mental game of hitting. And so where I learned a lot of the coping skills, like you know, how to adjust your attitude, like how to assess where you're at, like a lot of the traditional coping skills that you can kind of help you stay present in that bat. And he also introduced journaling. And so journaling, the big part of what I do, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But then my senior year, Darnell Cole became our head coach. And Darnell Cole played 15 years in the league. He's actually the Washington National hitting coach right now. So that was really cool. I got really close with Darnell. And I just spent a lot of time with him at his house. And just like, we would watch games, and he would have his buddies call him, and they would just like watch the game very differently than I did. And so very interesting to kind of see that approach. And so it was really about, you know, how they were reading the game and what they were seeing. It was interesting. It was just different than, you know, the traditional mechanics talk that we were always kind of exposed to at that young age. I get drafted by the Marlins. I was actually supposed to go play football and baseball, but I had some transcript issues. So that led me into Seminole State in Seminole, Oklahoma. There was a JUCO out there. I played for a guy named Eric Myers, And there was James Martin was on staff, Les Graham and Rusty Davis. I learned a lot, going into that next level because it's interesting. The guy that drafted me with the Marlins, John Martin, I asked him before I went what I needed to do to be able to play in the big leagues one day. And he told me that I had to learn how to hit spin and reduce kind of the swing to misses. And I was your typical power hitter. I could hit a baseball 500 feet, But that also meant that I swung the bat really, really hard. So I would constantly lose my barrel, hit those skyscraper fly balls, and then get a lot of the swing to misses. And so I always tell people I probably would have fit good in today's game, but I actually didn't strike out as much as a lot of those guys did. But anyways, so we ended up going to the World Series that year and finishing third. So that was a really cool experience. I played right field there. Had just a lot of great experience. I actually learned how to read the pitch there. I worked with a guy named Dr. Bill Harrison. He passed, but I worked with him during my time there remotely to learn how to read the pitch out of the hand. And so that was critical for the rest of my career that I learned that skill. From there, I went to Gulf Coast, and I know you're familiar with them down in Fort Myers. I played for Dave Collette, Rusty McKee, and Chandler Rhodes was there. And that was a great transition. I had a great time there. I learned a lot about just approaching different type of pitchers. Because it's interesting from high school to college, from JUCO to college, or down to Gulf Coast. It's interesting the dynamic of pitching. The game's the same, but the pitchers were different. And so I learned a lot about, what I couldn't do there, unfortunately. I had a decent career, I hit a lot of home runs and stuff, but I learned a lot about what I couldn't do. And so it was really frustrating because at that time I kind of ran out of time, and the game told me I just wasn't good enough. And so now I transitioned into coaching. And so really disappointed with how my career ended. I was kind of on a mission to figure out why I never reached my potential as a player. And so knowing what I know now, it kind of came down to my mindset. It came down to reading and studying pitchers. Because, and even the guys that I was working with had the same issue. I knew it wasn't a swing thing. Now, the swing's important. Don't get me wrong. That's what pitchers are reading. So the swing's important. But I knew for a fact that it wasn't their swing that's why they couldn't hit and why they weren't having the success that they were having. And so I really started introducing the matchup, man. What I got from the football background was, hey, we're reading the opponent constantly. We're reading what the guys are doing. And we just don't talk about that a lot in the baseball world, is reading the pitcher, reading the hitter, reading the defense, reading what guys are doing so that we can kind of strategically anticipate what's going to happen. And so yeah, and that's the other thing that I found, the guys that I was working with are typically the ages 14 to 23, the guys that are going into high school and they're going into kind of their early pro ball career. And, these guys, they just get hammered all over the place with mechanics. Everywhere they turn, someone's got something to say about their mechanics. And so I took a different approach, man. There's a lot of different ways to hit, and there's a lot of different ways to swing, and they all have a science to it, but they all also have flaws. They all have holes in it. So it doesn't matter what swing profile you have, you still have to learn how to approach pitchers with it. And so that's kind of the approach that I've taken. It's more, and that's what the strategic hitter is. It's more of, hey, man, you got a great foundation, but now what are you going to do with it? How are pitchers reading you? How are you going to attack them? Because if you have the same swing profile for every pitcher that you face, then you become predictable and easy to pitch to. And so that was kind of the core of the strategic hitter program, with more the matchup and how do we take good at bats, and then, how we approach different pitchers.
Good stuff right there, Geoff. Thank you so much for walking through that. And a couple things were kind of popping out to me while you were talking. Just want to make sure I understand as well. You were drafted by the Marlins out of high school.
Yes, sir.
Hey, okay, perfect. It didn't go. What round was it?
Yeah, it was late. It was like in the 40th round or something. I told them that I was going to go to college. At that time, I was going to go play football and baseball at Georgia Tech, and I felt like I needed more time in my game, and so I told him, hey, don't draft me. But the guy that drafted me, he's seen me play since I was 12, and so they, it's funny because I played against his grandson, and we were playing down in the Clearwater, Philly, um, their spring training complex. And at 12 years old, I hit a bomb out of that stadium. And John was there, and he was watching his grandson. And then he told me that later on, as I got into high school and he started to kind of follow me, that he was there at that program. So it was cool that he knew me that whole time. But I told him, hey man, like I know I have everything to work on because I was very seasoned because I played football and baseball. So I everything I knew I needed to work on. And so I told him I was going to go to school. I said, don't draft me. And he did anyway. So, but yeah.
Hey, what an honor, man! That's something very, very cool right there. And I know you had some transcript issues, so didn't end up at Georgia Tech. But let me ask you, what year is this? What year did you graduate high school?
Yeah, 2003.
2003. All right,
Yes, sir.
awesome. So at Georgia Tech, was Morrison still there, or had Hall come in as the baseball coach?
Oh, and then
Football
George
coach,
O'Leary was the football coach. Yep.
right? But the baseball coach was it
Yeah, Hall.
Morrison? It
Yeah, Hall.
it was Hall. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get my time
Yep.
frame around that. Yeah, and I tell you what, at that time, heck, Georgia Tech's still a big baseball program. That time,
Absolutely.
they were a really good program, and George O'Leary absolutely had the football program on the right path as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. All right,
Yeah, it was a good time.
yeah, very good time. So you end up Seminole State. You were at Seminole State 2 years, and then transferred essentially to Florida Gulf Coast.
I was the Seminole 1 year.
1 year, okay, and then
Yep.
left, went to Florida Gulf
Go.
Coast. All
Yep.
right, eligibility ran out while you were at FGCU.
Yep.
Okay, I got you. All right, I'm just trying to make sure I got a little
Yep.
bit of an understanding. So let me
Sure.
ask. So let me ask you, Geoff. You leave Florida Gulf Coast. That would have probably been around 2008, 2009, somewhere in that range. All right. So kind of what led you? And I know you gave us so much insight into the swing already, and the dynamics of really being a good hitter. But I'm just curious. What were a couple of like aha type moments that came to you after leaving Florida Gulf Coast and really leading up to the strategic hitter program?
Yeah. So again, I think for me it was always like, hey, what were we exposed to? Um, we were exposed to the swing, a lot of swing stuff, and the swing again is important. I tell guys all the time, like that's what pitchers are reading. They're reading your swing, so you have to understand like what your swing's doing. But at the same time, over the years, like the development of and the understanding of the swing had really, the science of the swing had really came it's tremendous what we know. But at the same time, we still have 100 guys teaching 100 different things. So
Mm-hmm.
we know a lot about their specific type of swings. So, but I would tell guys like there is a there's a hole in every swing. So you have to understand your swing and what you're trying to do so that you can understand what pitchers are trying to do so you can have an approach because pitchers play in certain parts of the zone. And so whenever you face the pitcher who throws pitches right in your zone, you end up having success. And when they run away from your zone, you struggle and you don't know why. And so yeah, so that was kind of like I wanted to kind of, the ball starts in the pitcher's hands, right? So we're so focused on the swing, which is the last part of the process. You still have to read the pitcher, you have to read the pitch, there's timing, there's pitch selection, and then there's a lot going on before the swing even happens that affects the swing. And so I kind of took that approach because I know that was the difference. Like because I've seen it. You think great swing that you can't play against good pitchers. You think great swing that just doesn't produce game day results. And so at the end of the day, that's why we play, right? That's why we practice is to have game day success. And the only thing in the way of you having game day success is that pitcher, and they're all different. So you have to figure out what is it you got to do to be able to have success against that pitcher. And you may not always have that same swing profile. Now, if you want to keep that swing profile, that's fine, but you just have to be disciplined and wait for that pitch.
Okay, I got you. All right. That's a great concept all the way around. And I got to believe the book that you wrote, and as I'm kind of sitting here listening to you really describe, man, everything that's going into hitting a baseball before the pitcher ever even throws the ball. I think
Right.
I think it just leads right into your book, Dominate the Plate, and which has just a ton to do with really your mindset. And as I'm thinking about how did you help prepare hitters mentally to really be able to develop that type of mindset, so to speak.
Yeah. So one of the things that I always do when I first see a hitter is I just do an assessment. I call it an assessment, an evaluation. I think it's really key on finding out where guys are at mindset wise, and you can tell very clearly by just the language they use and how they talk about themselves as to what mindset they're in. And so there's three different mindsets that we have. We have, at least in my program. There's a lot, but obviously within my program, we have the compare convince mindset. So this guy is constantly comparing himself to everybody else and trying to convince himself that he can play. And at the pro ball level and at the college level, that's everywhere. Like you're just looking there and you're just like looking around. Everybody's pretty good, if not better than you, and you're just kind of like, I don't know, man. Like, where do I fit? And so that's the first thing we have to do is get those guys, and that's about 90% of the guys, right? They're all that mindset, whether they know it or not. We have to get them into what we call compete and contribute. Is that okay? Now they start to figure out, okay, here's my role, here's where I fit. This is my assignment, and just get lost into what they do and where they're at, instead of trying to figure out how they're going to compete with their own peers. And so once we get into that mindset, then they start feeling like they're like everybody else. They start looking around and they're like, okay, dude, I can play here and I can contribute very well and have success. But then once we get them here, like the guys that we say, hey man, like if you want to be really good, let's get into the real mental game piece of the game that we call it. I think it's the strategic part. It's what you do to prepare for the pitcher and what you do to prepare for the pitcher that you're getting ready to face for that day or that week. What does that pitcher know about me? What do I know about him? And what adjustment do I need to make for me to have success to give him and for how his pitches play? Because right now, it's the perfect time of the year where I'm getting a ton of calls from college and high school guys because they played all fall and they scrimmage, and all scrimmage was about playing their own teammate, and it was great because the teammates know you better than anybody, probably more than you know yourself. And so they're positioning you, they're pitching you away, and then you struggle. And then you start, it's a perfect conversation, a perfect way into saying, hey, see, this is why you can't have the same approach for every single guy. They made an adjustment to you, and you didn't make the adjustment. And so, so that's always a great conversation, and they get it at that level because they do know more about you guys, because there is more data available, and then there is more video, so they can sit there and really understand what you are and how you're doing it. And now you have to adjust to them. And so I try to get guys to really focus on the pitcher. So quit getting on you, man. Like get focused on the pitcher, and the more we focus on the pitcher, the more our thoughts and what we think becomes about the pitcher. And when we do that, then we start seeing things that we've never seen before, and then that becomes your strategic advantage as to the helping you kind of strategically anticipate and develop that sixth sense as to what pitchers are trying to do to you. So as far as like developing it, it starts with awareness. We got to get them to understand the different mindsets and then what they got to do. Because once they understand that they're in this compare convince mindset, then they understand, okay, this is where the self doubt comes in. This is where the anxiety comes in. This is where indecisiveness comes in. So that's getting in the way of what they got to do to prepare every single day. So it really just starts with awareness and what they got to do. And then hopefully we get them into curious enough to where they want to become halfway obsessed with understanding what pitchers are trying to do to them. And then they can really take the step of reading and studying them and exploiting them. And really, like, the confidence goes through the roof when they get in that box and they have a feeling for what's already coming.
I bet. So 2 questions right off the bat. I mean, all right. So your book, Dominate the Plate. Where's the best way to find that book and to be able to buy it?
Yeah, I think the best way is probably Amazon. Yeah, Amazon's the best place to go.
All right, perfect. Amazon, Dominate the Plate by Geoff Rottmayer. And then the second thing, hey, Geoff, how can somebody get in touch with you, whether it's a prospect, ages 14 to 23, or a parent?
Yeah, the best way would be to send me an email. Rottmayer@gmail.com would be the best way. I'm on all the social platforms. I have a website, athletic-mission.com. So any of those, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. I'm pretty easy to find. So, but the best way would be to send me an email.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Hey, everybody that's joining this evening, thank you so much for being here. We absolutely appreciate it. Thank you for the support of Now D1, and thank you for the support of Geoff Rottmayer as well. If you did get in late, don't worry about it. We record this space, and we're going to be able to retweet it out later in its entirety. Again, we're talking tonight with Geoff Rottmayer. He's got a great career. I mean, he was a big-time high school athlete, had the opportunity to play college baseball at Seminole State or Seminole College, right? Seminole College in Oklahoma, and then went to Florida Gulf Coast University in Florida, and now is also teaching, doing a little bit of instructing, and has written a book, Dominate the Plate. And I got to tell you, I mean, just a swing expert, spent the majority of his adult life really thinking about this, developing a plan, and has put it forward really kind of, I guess your overall plan is the strategic hitter program. So kind of let's keep talking about that program and really what it is that helps guys to flourish and what it is that makes it just stand out as a different or better coaching approach.
Yeah, so I think when you look at the traditional model of teaching hitters, and again, like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just we have to understand, if we're struggling, what's next, right? So the traditional model is kind of heavily focused on mechanics, which again is really important. Is how pitchers are reading you. The other thing that we see a lot is the how they train. How they train you around. It's really about self. With the strategic hitter program, we kind of break up the seasons, right? So there's an off season, there's an in season, and there's a preseason. So the off season is really about it's really about you. Now that about getting bigger, faster, stronger, adjusting your mechanics, and working on your metrics. The preseason is really about taking the off-season games and starting to develop skills with them, working on the skill piece to get ready for a game, and then the in-season is about the opponent, right? It's about the post at bat, what are pitchers doing to us, what are they seeing, what do we need to do to adjust, and how do we plan for the upcoming week. So, you're not going to see us mix off-season and preseason and mix off-season and in-season. So we're very good about staying within the season because we know, like, if you're focusing so much on off-season, developing your swing, trying to get bigger, faster, stronger, then and during the in-season, that's going to get in the way of how you prepare for that opponent. So your body changes whenever you lift and strong, all that stuff. That's why they say maintenance during the season. If you start doing off-season lifting in the season, your body changes, and that changes your mechanics, and that changes how you move throughout the season. So we just want to make sure that everybody gets on a real good program that's seasonal based for what they want to do. One of the questions I always like to ask guys is, if there was like 5 guys that were just like you, right? Now that's pro ball for you, right? Like, there's 5 guys that are just like you. Why would the coach pick you? And so normally when I ask guys that question, they're like, well, I outwork everybody. And I'm just like, okay, dude, that's cool, man. Like, you need to work hard. But if I'm a GM or a college coach, I'm not getting too excited about that because I'm going to get fired if you suck. And so you're going to hear, like, the strategic hitters are going to talk about their routines. They're going to talk about how they prepare for game day, how they prepare for pitchers, how they go about developing their approach. So when you have a guy, let's say, when he starts going to the field, he's starting to think about what he's going to do for that practice that day to prepare for that pitcher based on the study that he did last night. And again, like all we're trying to do is find video. We can find video about how they move, what pitches they throw, how hard they throw, so that we can kind of get a feel for where they're at. And so now that's how they practice that next day. They practice for that pitcher based on what they already know about them. You're not going to know everything about everybody, especially at certain levels. But if you can have a good feel for how he moves, how he throws, what pitches he throws, then now you can start putting him in a profile. And you start saying, hey, he's the profile A. Here's what we need to look for. And then if he does anything different, then there's a pattern interrupt there. And then we start saying, oh, dude, did you notice he will throw an 0 curveball? Like that's different. That's not typical for what guys would do. But he trusts his pitch to throw an 0 curveball. Okay, that's something worth noting. And so the strategic hitters are going to be those guys that kind of figure those things out, pick those things out, and really try to find advantage that they can have in the plate.
Good stuff, man. I appreciate you continuing to walk through that. This is a fantastic program. When you developed it, I mean, have you gotten to a point where it's just set in stone, or is this something that's kind of evergreen and it's always evolving due to whatever the factors may be?
Yeah, I think, I'm always evolving. Like I learn more things because I talk to a lot of people. I talk to hitters all day long. This is all I do. So I don't have a day job. All I do is work with hitters all day long. So the more I learn, the more I hear from them, the more I take away, the more I try to figure things out. Now the framework's the same, but what we do within the framework will absolutely adjust.
I got you. Yeah, and I think what a great segue too. You were talking about you talk to hitters all day long, and doing a little bit of research on you, Geoff. I noticed that you've done several podcasts. You've hosted several podcasts as well. How has that really kind of helped you? Not only just sharing your knowledge, but really just connecting with the baseball community.
No, it's been great. I back in 2018, I was kind of 4 years into my business. So I started my business in 2014 in Tulsa. I've been working with hitters for a while longer, but I established my own place. And I just spent like just years grinding, trying to get that profitable and improve the model. Well, right around 2018, I felt pretty good about where we were at. So I started a podcast. The first one was Baseball Awakening. And that one was more of an interview style one. And I just got to connect with, like, man, a bunch of people that you probably, like this platform gives you an opportunity to reach out to people that you probably wouldn't be able to talk to otherwise. Mm. And so I got to interview a ton of people. I think we did like 80 interviews, 90 interviews. And I just learned a ton. And then unfortunately, I stopped it during COVID because there was a lot of scare around that time. So COVID kind of stopped the Baseball Awakening one. And then right around that time, I had a gentleman named Daryl Coulter. He's actually a mentor of mine, and he's actually the pitching side of me. He's the strategic pitcher guy, right? So he came down to Tulsa for about 3-4 years, and man, we just sat in the office and just grinded it out, trying to figure out our program and how to model our program, how to improve our program. And so I got to really pick his mind on what pitchers were trying to do, and he got to pick my mind on what hitters were trying to do, and it just made our program a lot better. And so we put a podcast together called Strategic Baseball, and all we were trying to do was just put out what we were discussing, and then see if the market would respond to it, and it did. So we got some business out of it, we got some good views out of it, we got some good feedback, so that was cool. And so, but yeah, the pod. I'm a big believer. I love the podcast platform. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's so cool. Is Strategic Baseball still being recorded, or is it you kind of ran the course and those episodes are just out there for anyone to go and review?
Yeah, I think we did 50 episodes and then we just kind of stopped. For no specific reason, we just did.
Sure. I understand. Good stuff, man. Hey, again, everyone that's joining this evening, thank you so much. I mentioned earlier that if you got in late, don't worry about it because we're going to be able to retweet it. And one of the other reasons that we record it, not only to retweet, but we turn this X Space into a podcast. And that podcast is Now D1 Speaks. And generally speaking, our core audience and guests are made up of uncommitted baseball prospects and college coaches. Really gives them an opportunity to be heard and for college coaches to continue on the recruiting process. Many times you'll see fantastic athletes on the field. If a college coach comes to watch you play baseball, I'll assure you, he knows you know how to play baseball. But one of the things he's really interested in is your makeup off the field. And this, the Now D1 Speaks gives these guys an opportunity to really talk about who they are when they're not on the field. What kind of classes do they take? What's their GPA? What do they want to major in? What are they doing in the weight room? How do they treat their teammates? How do they treat coaches? How do they treat potential coaches as well, or future coaches? And I think it just gives a college coach a sense of who someone is. And it just gives them a little bit of confidence that, hey, man, when they're not on the baseball field, they're going to take care of their business like young men should. And when we get on the baseball field, we can really kind of focus on winning baseball. Hey, again, Geoff, thank you so much for being here tonight. I think this has been a fantastic night so far. Really appreciate you taking some time to on what it is that you do and what you offer and how to get in touch with you and to really take advantage of a lot of the hard work and effort that you've been putting in. I'm really interested in, the strategic approach. I think kind of the next iteration that you came about after the strategic hitter was really the coach's strategic advantage baseball program. What is that? And how does that really help coaches?
Yeah, so basically, I just take all the stuff that I currently do and teach coaches. I get a lot of coaches that reach out to me that are really interested in my approach. And so, so we put a program out there for coaches because and it's really to guide them, right? It's a step by step. It's an assessment, and then where this guy should focus. And a lot of times, like what they're doing physically, it's fine, But how do we take them and actually think properly? How do we take them and actually say, hey, this is how this is going to help me against a pitcher? Because I think a lot of guys go through practice not really understanding how it's going to transfer to game day. And I think there's enough coaches out there that really care about their players, that really want to help them, and they do a great job. And they're just looking kind of for that next piece, right? And I think this is that next piece. I think a lot of coaches do a great job on the swing. They do a great job in preparing them, but how do we get a hitter like mindset to where they're ready for that opponent? And how do we prepare every week for an opponent? Again, the physical stuff they're doing probably just fine. It's just mindset wise, thinking about the pitcher, getting their mindset off of them. Because a lot of guys, it's all about them all the time, and they're kind of led to believe that they're the issue all the time, and really they're not. It's the pitcher and how they approach them. And so if they can just have an approach for the pitcher, then they can actually fix a lot of the issues that they currently have, given that they understand it. So there's a lot of coaches that reach out to me, and I love talking to them. I love collaborating with them. I know there's a huge rift between private guys and coaches, and I hate it. I'd love to bridge the gap more and have a conversation, because at the end of the day, it's all about the kid. And so how can we help kids? It's not an ego trip. So that's what that program's really about. It's the whole year-round program. How do we go from off-season to in-season to preseason, or preseason to in-season? How do we assess? How do we have the right conversation with these hitters and give them a chance to, get ready to go play at the next level, which, when they get there and everybody just as good, if not better than them.
Well, you are definitely bridging that gap. I mean, you are immersed in baseball. I mean, this is certainly your life. I love that you're saying, hey, I get paid to do this. I don't have another job. This is my job. Absolutely. And in speaking of that, man, you're also the founder of the Athletic Mission Baseball Academy. And I know you've gotten a lot of recognition for that. I think just recently you were one of the top 25 baseball academies across America. Just kind of talk to us a little bit about what makes that. How'd you make the list? Why are you standing out? What type of training and resources do you offer?
Yeah, so it's interesting. When I got done playing, I went and worked at a facility, and I just wanted to kind of learn the ins and out of that side of it. While again, I was trying to figure out my own crap. So selfishly, I got into it to figure out what wrong with me. And then it kind of evolved into, okay, I think I know, and now how can I help the kids? So, but what I saw when I got into a traditional academy was like, man, there's a lot of things I don't want to do. And so I kind of just like developed this model of where it's just private training. There's no teams, there's no lessons, or there's no lessons, all program driven. There's no renting the cages out. It's strictly guys who want to be there, guys who want to get better, and everybody's on their own program trying to get better. And so what I think what really separates us is, aside from the results that we get, it's more the conversation that we're having with the kids. And I think for me, I never tell a kid he's wrong because he's not. I never yell at a kid. To me, it's always about the way they answer is where they're at. So it tells me a lot about where they're at and how I need to help them. And so the conversation we have, if it's not the answer that we need, then I just ask questions that lead them there. So it allows them to think for themselves, and it allows them to kind of like, it's their own idea. And when it's their own idea, they embrace it more. And so that's kind of the approach that we've taken. And I think the kids respond to it very, very well. Some of the awards that we got, I don't even know. Like it's awesome. I really don't know what went into getting them. I was just like in the grind trying to figure it out. Though it was cool that we got recognized for that. But that's basically what we do. Like I don't do like we don't have a lot of the technology stuff. It really is about coming in and what is it going to take to have good at bats and have conversations about what it's going to take to have good at bats and what the next level is like. And a lot of kids don't have a real perception of what the next level is going to be like. So we have real in-depth conversations about what that's going to be like. And I think that approach and the success we've had is kind of we're still here. So we're obviously doing something right.
Man, it's pretty innovative stuff. I mean, it's definitely a different approach. I love it. How many people do you employ, or are you on your own?
Yeah. So at any given time, it'll probably be only two or three. Yeah, there's not a lot. We're not trying to. Like, I only take on locally about 50 kids. It's really hard to work with more than that. And then remotely, I'll work with about another 40, 50 at that time too. So, but right now, like recently, I had Daryl down here. He recently went back home. So right now, I'm back to just me again, which is fine. So it's hard to find some good help, but there are a lot of coaches that are interested. They're just not around here, around where I'm at. But for right now, it's back to me again. So it's back to startup.
I understand. Absolutely. And you say around you. You're still in Oklahoma. What city?
Yeah, we're in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Tulsa, Oklahoma. And you said remotely you can work with people as well. Again, is the best way to reach you just through email, or do you have a website?
Yeah, I have a website, athletic-mission.com. There's a lot of information on there. You'll find my email on there as well. But yeah, so yeah, the remote business has been doing well. There's a lot of kids that we know we can help that just don't have access to some of the stuff. So yeah, so that part of the business we enjoy.
Hey, man, Geoff, again, this has been a fantastic night. I can't thank you enough for being on here, just to have the knowledge that you have, the passion you have. And I don't say that just because you went to Florida Gulf Coast. I think you're an outstanding guy all the way around. And
Appreciate it.
absolutely, man, I really do appreciate you being here. Man, I hope we're able to stay in touch. I would love for you to come back and make yourself available to our core audience again, maybe in another, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, something like
Uh,
that.
Absolutely. You just
Hey,
let me
man.
know.
Absolutely. I certainly will. Again,
Yes,
everyone that
sir.
was able to join us this evening, we thank you so much. And we certainly thank Geoff Rottmayer. And with that, I think we're going to say good night.
Good night.
Hey, let me ask you something. Are you ready to dominate at the plate this season? Blast Baseball is the #1 hitting improvement solution, trusted by more major league, college, and travel ball teams than any other. The Blast sensor attaches to the knob of any bat, providing real-time feedback with every swing. Metrics are automatically sent to a smartphone app, generating insights that allow you to analyze and improve your hitting like never before. Go to blastmotion.com and enter code NOWD1 and you will save $25 at checkout. Unlock your potential with Blast.